Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the social media pages, including Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, Twitter at Talk El Paso, YouTube, the Talk El Paso channel, or Twitch at Andrew J. Polk, because we want to be all the places that this conversation could be happening on, but people are interested to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland. So, as part of that ever expanding mission, because really there's always more to talk about. There's never been a day when you're like, you know what, guys, it's been a pretty simple one, not a lot going on. Let's just pack it up for the day and I'll have a good one. There is always something going on that affects us here, even if it's a bit more local these past couple of days. Some of the big topics we got coming up for you today. Of course, we have now the vote after about 6 hours of debate out of City Council on that new item. I believe it's item 6, if I'm not mistaken, on my agenda, of discussing getting an estimate for what the downtown arena, also known more formally as the Multipurpose Performing Arts and Entertainment Center, which somehow ends up the acronym coming out the MPC, but separate issue there, really. After 6 hours of debate, moving forward on what can be done there. So, working on that a little bit. John Browson lets us know a little bit of an issue on the audio there. See if that is working better for you. May not have been a little bit of digital percussive maintenance there, but of course, for all those who are listening on air, a little bit different experience, and will always be there as long as, the tower is standing up there. So appreciate the feedback there over on our Facebook page. I mean, we do like to be all of these places, so that sometimes we have to turn something off and back on there. Appreciate the feedback on that particular point. But to some of the other points we've been discussing, so that vote moving forward, also more information on some of the infrastructure issues, some more feedback, really, which is interesting, which both has issues and further details on the current votes going through, but then also maybe a little bit more setting up of some of the, shall we just say, future debate, which we'll get into here in just a bit. So let's dive straight into one of the bigger issues of the day here, that of what was going on with, again, City Council today taking up is the majority of the day at this point, I suppose it is. By most reports, including from our news partners over at KFox 14, that they have voted to get that updated one after some debate here, but according to, amongst others, I believe members of City Council, indicating that this was a unanimous vote, which is, I suppose, a good thing, because getting the detail, I mean, it was frustrating to me, at the very least. Out of the last week, them deleting the item from the agenda, which is just weird at best. Definitely at best weird, and otherwise maybe a little slap in the face feels a little harsh, but it was definitely on the order of it. I would have to say, because saying that no, we're not even going to say a yes or no at this point in time, but it's a straight up now we're not doing it. But yeah, according to Cassandra Hernandez's Twitter, as of a little under an hour ago here, that the City Council has unanimously approved the downtown multiple percent design work consultants and cost estimates. So despite some of the concerns that have been floating out there, particularly from advocates or interested parties in this whole debate and issue, wondering if this could be, amongst other things, considered the wording of it a poison pill, because not that it has ever been considered for anywhere besides downtown, the whole just south of the convention center, just south of, let me look at the cross street. What is the cross street? Right there. But yeah, essentially right south and just north of Paisano, really, in that area, to try and make it into that. There's never been another area particularly focused on by City Council or others there, because it's just how it has gone there. Is that San Antonio? So yeah, looking like basically just south of San Antonio, or maybe more specifically Overland now that I'm looking at it a little bit more closely, but definitely north of Paisano, within that range and in that more or less direction. It's always been considered there, whether it's been called, I think our news partner is referring to it also as a Union Plaza area, but it's been more, at least over the past few years, come to be known as that of Duranguito. Again, different names for it there. So that's some of the issues going on there. And so what's now going to be moving forward is getting those cost estimates and actually figuring out that $180 million that has been approved for all of this. What is actually, again, minus the actual other parts of it, because it's not, the $180 million isn't even all there after many years and depreciation. I mean, it didn't buy what it did back in 2012 when it was originally voted on, at the very least. But they are going to be getting that updated estimate to see what can even actually be included in it. So, okay, getting a little bit of clarification there. They do have the master planning areas, essentially that whole area directly south between San Antonio and Paisano, the master planning area with the actual footprint being more that next street overland down. So a pretty big chunk of area that has been quite contentious. Some of the other discussion that happened on it apparently was about the dilapidated nature of some of the properties within these areas being discussed here, which is a little bit of a causing a problem and then blaming it and then bring the problem as something else needing to be solved there, because of course that area has been fenced off after being partially demolished some years ago, good chunks being taken out of walls. So saying, oh, well, it's dilapidated, so it now needs to go. That's like shuffling someone over and saying like, oh, you need a Band-Aid here. You need it. They're going to charge you $1 for the Band-Aid here or something like that. Because, yeah, it's been, people were living there before this point and businesses and other things. So a little dubious about that discussion, I think, because it's been ongoing for years, and I'm sure it'll be going on for years more. Most of the discussion that was apparently, again, according to our news partners, from concerned citizens speaking during this. At least 6 of them spoke during the whole public comment section, including people you might recognize who've been paying attention to local news, and particularly commentators such as, I believe, Judd Burgess and Rick Bonart spoke during it, kind of questioning on, okay, if this is even, why were you, since this is not the item that came up a couple of weeks ago, where it was a, let's see if we can either get city staff or maybe have to go out and get a consultant here. Now, this is straight up consultant hiring a firm to do the analysis, so added cost. Now, arguably, from the other way, there would have been, you're using time, city staff time that could be used elsewhere, so there's a cost effect to it, but it's not an added cost in that case, is what it comes down to for me. In any case, seeing this event, and that was the real issue coming up for some of the people here. Looks like we might be having some issues with the online stream. Might have to restart that here in just a second. But in any case, we'll continue our discussion about this. Due for a break now here anyway. So coming back from the break, we'll get into more of these issues, more of this discussion, and more of what's going on with some of those national and international infrastructure debates, discussions, etc., etc. So all that and more coming back with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Host Andrew J. Polk. Talk to you back in a minute. Did you have the energy to get through whatever you're discussing in your day? Something that I reach to, anyway, is Clever Tea. KLEVRTTEA, as in the stuff that you drink, because, well, I like it. It tastes good. It's a good blend of oolong tea, coconut, pineapple, hibiscus, eucalyptus, hawthorn berry, and cinnamon with their oolong wise blend. And don't forget, we've hinted at it a couple of times, there are new blends that'll be coming out before too long. So be sure to follow them online, or even with their maybe upcoming physical locations as well. A lot of exciting things happening there. But really what it comes down to is, what does it do for you? And the benefits that come from it are pretty extensive, including boosting energy levels, reducing anxiety, promoting better focus, and even strengthening immunity. Because as we're talking about whatever those temperatures are going to do this year, particularly for our area, the whole 3 weeks of winter that we sometimes see, it's something that you might want to consider as an added benefit to your life. But I drink it because the boost in the afternoon is very helpful to me in doing this conversation with you all. So if you want to find them, you can order your own box online at clevertea.com. That's KLEVRTEA.com. They also do those events in the communities on the weekends. But if you want to place your own order, be sure to enter the code radio15 at checkout to get your discount on your next order. Again, clevertea.com, KLEVRTEA.com.
of not knowing where to go to get quality medical care and services when you need it. From the routine to minor medical emergencies, my go-to is Dr. Alan Carpenter and his team at Upper Valley Urgent Care Center. From shots and testing to aches, sprains, breaks, and the rest of the unplanned parts of your day, they're at the ready with walk-ins accepted 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week at 121 East Red Road. Celebrating their 15th anniversary this fall, Upper Valley Urgent Care Center. Thank you for your service. If you're a veteran and Medicare eligible, Advocate Health Advisors can help you get all the benefits you qualify for. They are highly trained in the fusion of Medicare and military benefits and represent a variety of plans in the greater El Paso and surrounding areas. You may qualify for additional benefits such as dental, vision, hearing, transportation, and more. They can help you with a no-cost, no-obligation review. To learn how you qualify, please contact Eric Lowenberg at 1-800-876-0214. That's 1-800-876-0214.
In the 90s, Bruce Willis couldn't avoid the spotlight until he discovered a tiny mountain town. On the podcast Haleywood, discover what happened when Hollywood glamour collided with the small-town values of Haley, Idaho.
It's a tale people close to Bruce Willis have never been keen on telling, but it's a story the people of Haley are recounting in detail for the very first time.
Listen to Haleywood, that's Hailey, on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo.
Hey Texas, this is Eric Burton.
And I'm Adrian Casada, and we are Black Pumas. We've partnered with Don't Mess with Texas to turn up the message to keep Texas clean.
So come on, join hands and let us be united. Let's all do our part in taking care of our beautiful state roads.
It's time to step up. Together, we can keep Texas litter-free.
Don't mess with Texas, y'all. Peace.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the social pages, of which we should have fixed the audio by now. Trying to get it over here. Monkeys and wrenches kind of running around in the background here. Steam-powered radio is sometimes how it's called, but this is very much digital, and the issues sometimes we got John Brosnan letting us know much better over there. Thank you for the heads up, because, well, that's also, I mean, in a variety of ways, the interaction is what makes this show what it is, both in a little bit of technical help there, which we do appreciate, but also in the discussion of the issues here. So, whatever you have going on at any particular point in time with the issues, you can comment over there on the various pages that we have. Again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, mostly under Talk El Paso under those, or Andrew J. Polk, one or the other, or sometimes both, really. But also we've got the phone lines that we'll be getting to a little bit later in the show, as well as the pound 250 line, which we do have people leaving messages, particularly if you got a burning comment or question or something you want to get in there that couldn't quite fit in the show, or a middle of the night, 3 a.m. thing. You can leave the message there by calling pound 250 on your cell phone, and then saying the keyword Talk El Paso when prompted. No judgment. If it comes in at 3 a.m., I will not admit that unless you want me to, because having the discussion, whatever it is important. We're a little bit more lax with the focus on Fridays, which is always approaching, as we then overall talk about what all the issues going on affect us here in El Paso. And so talking a little bit more about, just some of those infrastructure issues here. And some of the national response coming out of that after we had that big vote basically into the early hours over the weekend. What it came down to, both being celebrated, frankly, on both sides of the aisles. We specifically had, besides the passage happening in the House and then going to the President Biden's desk, we did have a Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, adding his perspective on that as well.
I think there may be a way forward, not only in Kentucky, but across the country, to deal with these long-standing infrastructure problems.
So specifically on some of the impacts of it, but overall happy that it was able to move forward finally after, frankly, a decent amount of chastising on his part towards his colleagues on the other side of the aisle for inability to move forward with it.
I was delighted that the House finally found a way to pass the infrastructure bill last week.
So that is definitely something that is setting up the future debates, which due to the, I guess, relative happiness and that moving forward does not mean that extends to the other part of this, because really this was one infrastructure effort that has now been split up into two. If you recall, there was the physical infrastructure part, still the roughly $1 trillion, that has now moved forward, split off from the other about $2 trillion, because it was like a 3.5. These numbers start jumbling up again. Billion here, billion there, you start talking real money, right? And the other part of it, the human infrastructure, I think, is the best way it's been getting described here. Well, just because he was happy about one part doesn't mean that, Mitchie is liking the other parts of it.
I'm extremely skeptical that this massive reckless tax and spending business is anywhere close to paid for.
So, yeah, the other $2 trillion, wouldn't expect there to be much support there, at least from national Republicans on that part, which has very much been, at the very least, looking at strategically forcing the Democrats into the budget reconciliation process, which an added wrinkle of which is that would make it unavailable for other methods. So might be more strategic than it seems, but continuing on with what he says there.
The other bill they're trying to pass could best be described as the reckless tax and spending bill. A massive addition of another $2 trillion the country is not asking for and doesn't want.
And again, that being the parts that would include like daycare, social services, other parts of it. But one other thing that I wanted to mention as part of the other kind of focus that is supplemental to this, even though it's different in its own way, would affect these discussions going forward, is that of what's going on in Glasgow, or wrapping up sort of end of this week in Glasgow. And that is with the whole COP26, the climate conventions, of which I did not realize until checking on it today, that actually our local representative, Veronica Escobar, is there at this point, having now a release out there in the El Paso Times as well, noting about it. So that's interesting development. Did not know that that was fully going to be happening there. The article in the El Paso Times being that El Paso will have a voice in the climate talks as Veronica Escobar arrives at COP26 in Glasgow, taking some pictures with some other congressional leaders, a picture with Nancy Pelosi as well, talking about that. So that's an interesting development there, particularly given that COP26, I mean, it's a conversation starting, I guess, is important in its own right, but no one's particularly happy, at least from either side, both the activists who were wanting things to happen or those that, are dubious at best about how this might turn out. No one's really, I think, happy about what might be coming there, because if there, for those who are of the opinion and wanting to see further action from countries on it about particularly 2050 emissions goals, finding them falling far short, and then others who are more concerned about what the impacts are going to be onto everyday life, economic situations, particularly as we're still looking at infrastructure issues, that this could quash all of that. Not happy either. So I think it'll be an interesting visiting after this point on, was any of this actually successful? Was this meeting? Was the focus put into it? Did it actually do anything, or is it so much window dressing? So it'll be interesting to get that perspective from particularly those that attended there. I don't know. I'm waiting to see if anything actually substantive or not substantive ends up coming out of it. Tending maybe a little bit towards the latter. I think the only real thing from everything that I've been seeing and reading about it might be a new international system towards carbon offsets or carbon taxing, that kind of thing, which we might actually get into that from another side here. I've had some contact with organizations over the years, or really over the last 6 months, really, that are looking at that as a potential market-driven solution from another aspect. Talked with some of them over at CPAC and have had some contact with them. Given all of this that's going on, might be an interesting time to revisit and talk more about that. But I digress. So those are some of the major topics going on in and around our area, as we also have over on the Facebook page primarily right now. We have Maria Coleman saying that if you're more optimistic, if they would be honest about funding, taxes have to increase as a result. The rich being taxed heavily will not cover costs in terms of those local infrastructure bill. And John Brazelton saying only about 50% or less of this infrastructure is actually devoted, this legislation rather, is devoted to infrastructure itself. So a little bit of dubiousness on at least the stuff that has been passed within the United States, much less what might be coming out of these climate discussions happening internationally. Not the most optimistic, it sounds like, for you, as well as what Maria was saying about the way it's being put together. I don't really know where the rubber's going to hit the road, particularly with whatever is being talked about within Glasgow, or if it'll actually do anything. I mean, the whole Greta Thunberg crowd and all of them not happy at this point, having already basically halfway through the 2-week conference and international meetings going on there, kind of declaring it dead on arrival from their perspective of not being doing enough to reduce, I think, their major point about expected impacts on the temperature rise over the next century or so, with emissions needing to be stopped by well before that. Again, that's their perspective as near as I can tell it from what I've seen and been reading about it, with then again other perspective that we've had discussed here on this own program about what's that actually then gonna mean. I'm reminded of an older King of the Hill episode that kind of dealt with this and may have been a little bit prescient with it. Stick with me here for a second. What it was is that it was going into the whole idea of carbon offsets, and I think Bobby and the boys were getting involved with probably Dale Gribble in somewhat of a scam dealing with it, saying that, oh no, we're selling carbon offsets. We're selling them. You can totally buy them from us, and your carbon will be offset. And so seeing like big trucks with driving a green machine because I buy carbon offsets slapped on it. And then when it came down to it, Dale, being the character that he wasn't doing much about it. And eventually someone planted some trees, but that's maybe a little bit more prescient, that is comfortable for anyone to be thinking about at the moment, that if that's really the international order or the big change coming out of all of this, is it actually going to both do anything or just create new bubbles, essentially? Because if people aren't really believing that that's actually going to work or going to be happening, it's not even the tail wagging the dog, the tail just in the air wagging itself off into oblivion. That's all that it really comes down to. So I'm not going to hold my breath on anything coming out of this whole conference, because international leaders, even if they are eager to see action or see things being fixed to their national leaders, anyway, we have certainly very active people visiting, talking, protesting, etc. But the disconnect between them and power is decently significant, and national leaders, I mean, rightfully so, considering all the aspects of it, seem very unwilling to take any of the kind of aggressive steps. So, real sum total, even if nothing really comes out of this, don't expect this topic to die down anytime soon here. So, coming up on the need for a break here right now, coming back from the break, we'll get into more of those comments and also calls on the line, because that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Get to more of those on the line here. Line's actually already filled up here, so we'll be taking those calls throughout the rest of the hour, don't you worry, and also more comments online and all these places. So back after here with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Be sure to take control of your health and just stay on top of the latest medical innovations by tuning in every Saturday at noon to the Medical Hackers with Dr. Sandeep Rao. He's a board-certified vascular interventionalist, well-versed in both minimally invasive treatments and also the latest developments that are coming up here and helping you navigate our complex medical system. And when he says hacks, he's not talking about how you can do bad things with computer systems, but more like in the life hacks kind of style of thinking about things, of what do you need to know to be essentially an informed and active and advocating for yourself kind of consumer in this environment. Because healthcare, as important as it's been over the last year, is like much other things, it's something that you use and you consume, and anytime you can be more informed on how you're doing it, you're probably going to be a bit better off. So you can submit your own questions by emailing rao@medicalhackers.com. That's RAO@medicalhackers.com, his last name. And again, be sure to tune in this coming Saturday at noon, right after the El Paso History Radio Show, for the Medical Hackers with Dr. Sandeep Rao, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with a State Fox 14 News Update. Today, the El Paso City Council voted to get an updated estimate on the current cost to build a downtown arena, also known as the Multipurpose Performing Arts and Entertainment Center. The center was approved by voters in 2012 for $180 million to be built in Union Plaza in downtown El Paso. The area has been fenced off for years from the public, waiting for the ground to be broken on the arena. Some members of City Council discussed the decaying and neglected buildings in the area. During the public comment section of the meeting, 6 El Pasoans discussed how they oppose spending more taxpayer money on a multi-purpose center that they say isn't popular anymore. And an 8-year-old child from Guatemala was abandoned at the Paso del Norte Bridge in El Paso yesterday. A news release from U.S. Customs and Border Protection states that during processing, officers were able to make contact with an individual in Virginia believed to be the child's mother. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
There's some slow-moving traffic on the 10 westbound between Airway Boulevard and Paisano Drive. Also, there's an accident that has the right lane closed on the 10 westbound at Paisano Drive. And there's another collision that could cause some delays on Gateway Boulevard just west of Zaragoza. Also, the connecting roadway is closed on Gateway Boulevard northbound at Paisano Drive. I'm Marie Jourdain with traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We saw a pretty warm day yet again for our Tuesday. Now, as we get into our Wednesday, we start off the morning with some chilly temperatures in the mid to upper 40s, but we are expecting to have winds pick up after midnight as a cold front begins to approach the area. This front will bring gusty winds through the afternoon and a slight drop in temperature.
This report is sponsored by Panera. Panera believes in saying yes to the good things. Yes to mac and cheese. Yes to topping it with cheesy Parmesan crisps. And yes to putting it all on a sandwich. The new grilled mac and cheese sandwich. Get $1 delivery when you order on the app. Panera. Live your yes. Restrictions apply.
Hi, Phil Swift here. When that next storm is barreling down, get prepared with the Flex Seal family of products. Floods can destroy your home. Push Flex Base deep into cracks and holes to help prevent flooding. Seal doors and windows, patch leaky roofs and downspouts. Remember, when that storm is coming your way, keep your family safe and dry. Be prepared with the Flex Seal family of products. Available at FlexSealProducts.com and fine retailers.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the Air Conditioning Company. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 5 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Lowe's Provember event is back, and they're thanking pros like you all month long with top values on pro brands like DeWalt and Spyder, online or in stores through November 24th. Lowe's, the new home for pros, U.S. only. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
It's important to know what's going on, especially around the world.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways you can tune into the show, including on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the social media pages, of which we have Michael Pettis, Maria Kalman, John Browselton, Ed Clore, Calvin Williams, and more. Lupinato, if I didn't say that already a little bit earlier, dealt with some of the audio issues over there. A little bit of digital percussive maintenance never hurts, or, well, it didn't hurt this time anyway. So we're also taking those calls throughout the end of the hour. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Pull up at the moment, but we'll, again, throughout the end of the hour, so try again, particularly if you have a comment you want to get in. If you can't get through for some reason, we also have that pound 250 line. Do not forget. Simple enough. Dial pound 250. All 4 of those symbols on your phone. Call it like a phone number, and then say the keyword Talk El Paso. When prompted, should be able to leave us a message day or night. Or you can also email me. Again, a lot of ways you can interact with the show, particularly on the major topics and the things we're talking about affecting us here in the borderland that we do discuss here. Do have to mention, of course, Talk El Paso, brought to you in part by Monterey Asset Management. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, consider investing in real estate. Monterey manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. Check out their new website, m1ep.com. That's m1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation of investing in real estate, call certified property manager Ray Baca at 915-592-4549. That's 915-592-4549. 888-848-9249, as well as Upper Valley Urgent Care Center. They are available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week with no appointment needed, walk-in basis. They have testing capabilities, vaccines available, fast and friendly, 5-star medical treatment of minor medical emergencies all the way up to x-ray capabilities. It is their 15th anniversary that they are celebrating. Dr. Carpenter and his team over there with 20 exam rooms. They're all are also a VA authorized urgent care provider, as some of you all have pointed out. So a great resource for whatever you need. Keep it in your back pocket for a little bit of extra peace of mind of knowing where to go when you have those day disruptors and medical emergencies. 121 East Red Road, Upper Valley Urgent Care Center. Thank you to our sponsors. Please support them as they support us in our mission to bring back live local talk radio here in the borderlands. So a lot of discussion about some of these things. Michael Pattis pointing out that, or saying that only higher taxes will reduce global warming. Al Gore sells carbon offsets like the church selling indulgences to offset sins. That has been something in place, and that's probably more what was being poked fun at by that old King of the Hill episode that came to mind for me. But I have heard of, particularly, it was interesting to me during CPAC, there was actually a decent amount of discussion and support of certain kind of actions from a conservative mindset being talked about there, including some youth groups, but also others wanting to see more like carbon markets. So less the carbon offsets and that kind of, I mean, it can have an actual factor behind it, but it ends up feeling a lot of like hand waving hocus pocus. So doing more of an actual like government market, that there is a company that does active steps to reduce it, and therefore they have a certain amount of capability that can be sold to other companies, or they're just being caps, and if you emit a certain amount, there is a tax on it, as opposed to this offset kind of thing. There's a lot of interesting proposals out there worth a look at, if maybe not totally going to work at, but just a broadening of that conversation I think is well overdue here. As also Maria Coleman pointing out, one kind of the perennial issues with this, that two major polluters will not be at the conference with Biden. China and Russia, and also India, need to be on board with lessening emissions. Yeah, China, they may be seeing some lessened emissions this season, if only because fuel and energy costs have skyrocketed, seeing some serious downturn in capability there. So they may be seeing it, though we might be reaping that reward before too long here. Anyway, all these ways you can comment, call in, and we'll get into those calls right now. We do have Raul in the Northeast here on the line. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Yesterday I called to remark on the remarkable career of the first woman Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi,
Sure.
and how she got the Democrats to impeach Trump 2 times. Now, you seem to throw shade on her by implying that she wasted her time impeaching Trump because he wasn't removed for office. She did what she and the Democrats thought the Constitution and history call for. And I bet you the majority of the 81 million Americans who voted for Trump, who voted Trump out of office, wanted the House to impeach and remove Trump also. I know I did. Now, Speaker Pelosi and the Democrats knew it was unlikely that there would be enough Republicans who would adhere to their oath to be impartial jurors and to demand to hear and see all the evidence. They, in fact, violated their oath and had made up their minds before the thing even started.
I'm not saying that there isn't shade to be thrown here, but I think talking about this, even in this way, is a fundamental misunderstanding of how that process works. It's literally not a court of law. And whatever you may think about the idea of impartial jurors is one thing, but literally, it's a political process, baked in, 100% start to finish, a political process. So it's one thing to say we must take action. It's another to look at the factors and realize that, well, successful might elude you by just the very setup of it, and then to do it twice. I mean, there's certain questions about the definition of insanity, to my mind.
Yeah, well, the Republicans let him off 2 times, and then he stages an insurrection. And then they want everybody to move on from his failed coup. Now, I saw him incite the mob to attack the Capitol. 1,000 assaults on law officers have been charged. And 5 people died as a result of the insurrection. And some of those insurrectionists have pled guilty, saying that they were carrying out Trump's wishes to stop the steal. He needs to go to jail for this. The January 6th attack committee, by the way, issued subpoenas for 10 former Trump officials, including former press secretary Kayleigh McEnany, also known as BS Barbie, and neo-Nazi Stephen Miller. And finally, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is calling for an ethics investigation and criminal investigations against Republican Representative Paul Gosar after he shared a video in which he is seen killing Democratic Representative Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez, and President Joe Biden. You know, she said threats against members of Congress and the President of the United States must not be tolerated. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, I think we even had that in the news update at the top of the hour. And let me just take a step back in that the events that happened on January 6th were very serious. I mean, we carried a whole special report on our own air during this time slot because, I mean, gunshots and violence going off in the halls of the Capitol, however you slice it, is a very serious thing going on. But even at the same time, I think what it comes down to for me, particularly the impeachment efforts, is the difference between actual action and impacts coming from it or it being performative. And, well, as we can see from it, even if there was the best intentions, which I dispute, at least in my own mind here, of that whole set of actions happening, it largely came down to then being performative. Now, didn't it? Literally twice, and the impact was nothing besides a talking point, something that might go out in a campaign mailer to try to galvanize someone to go out to the polls. That was the sum total of action. So even if you're thinking that, yes, something needs to happen there, what they were doing didn't actually do anything. So if that's really that important to you, if you really think that there needs to be, prosecution, all of that, by all means, maybe then just support the efforts that would actually do something. But maybe that's just me. I prefer actual things being done than just a constant rhetoric, because we have just plenty of that. Absolutely. All right, getting to more calls on the line here. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Do have Tony on the west side right now. Tony, thanks for joining us.
A message for a patient on the Northeast, a message from Trump. Tonight, when you go to bed and you hear noises, boo, it'll be Trump. Under your bed, boo, it'll be Trump. And when you hear noises and you open a closet, boo, it'll be Trump, okay? So always remember that. Trump is under your bed and in the closets and at night when you hear noises. Don't forget, you've been warned. Now, let's talk about something a little bit more seriously. I've been told that city representatives, city councils, county judges, yada, yada, the mayor, that most of you listen to this program. It's a very popular listen to program, I guess over 100,000 people. I have a message for you. I have an open letter from Tony Westside to you, especially Mayor Leeser and Smartbind. Peter Smartbind, listen up. You may be, as persons, wonderful angels, perfect, yada, yada, yada. But as politicians, you are cowards, and I'm going to give you evidence that you are cowards and you're dangerous to us. Let's take Leeser. One of the biggest responsibilities you have, Mr. Mayor, is financial responsibility. And you know how I know that you're not watching out for us and you're a traitor and you're dangerous to us? Because in your own personal finances and your business, you're getting richer and richer. But the policies that you promote at the city level, you're costing us. You're making us poorer. That's how we know you're a traitor to us. And that's why we're angry. And that's why I hate you. And other people hate you. Politically speaking, we hate you. And Peter Smartbind, listen to this, Mr. Peter Smartbind. Why don't you step up and be a man? Why don't you have an open door policy? I've tried to see you. I can't get through your screeners. I've tried to talk to you when you have your meetings and you shut me down. Why don't you be a man and have an open door policy? Why don't you come on this station and answer some questions? Why don't you stop spending our money irresponsibly? So again, it's not a personal attack. It's a political attack because I'm very angry at the way you spend my money and the way you put me in debt. I really do not appreciate the way you betrayed your office to the rest of us here in El Paso with all your spending.
I mean, those are important points there. Personally, the way that amongst policies and other things, the way I judge elected officials more often than not is their accessibility and their transparency. Because just on average, for me, those politicians that make themselves more available, that make themselves more open and more accessible to public comment, to interviews, to all that kind of stuff. I mean, this goes, having some professional experience with that, we talk with politicians decently enough, but even just the ability for people, any person, not even with a radio show or a television camera or a cell phone recording, live streaming in their hand kind of thing, the willingness to talk and actually deal openly with them, particularly when we're down at this local level, is kind of foundational for how I judge their effectiveness and worth as a politician. Again, a lot more goes into that, but it's foundational and everything is kind of built on top of that, to my mind, anyway. So if there's reasons why they're not, that just is it's not a good sign, at least in my mind here. So thank you for that point in that call. We are due for a break right now. So coming back from the break, we are going to be talking more about these issues, taking more of those calls. So that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot of issues, a lot of stuff to discuss. More on that here after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Whatever you're doing, going about your day, talking about these important issues, it's important to take care of yourself. And that can mean a variety of ways. One of the ways that you can still take advantage of a benefit taking care of yourself is by scheduling a breast thermogram with El Paso Therapeutics and Thermography, Therapeutic and Thermography Inc., inside Biometrics at 935 Sunland Park Drive, where they are continuing their $50 off all breast thermograms through the end of the year. So you can give them a call and claim your credit by calling 915-401-4053, 915-401-4053. And this is taking care of yourself in a way of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of the pain that it takes to deal with something after it's already happened. So this is another tool in your toolbox, in your arsenal of helping to track your personal health and maybe even diagnose and detect conditions before they can be seen in other methods. FDA-approved system, particularly for detecting early onset of breast cancer, amongst other things. But in any case, give them a call, claim your $50 off through the end of the year, your breast thermogram, 915-401-4053, or log on to elpasothermography.com. That's El Paso, TheMography.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
There continues to be heavy traffic on George Dieter southbound between Pelicano and Rojas Drive. Also, there's construction that has the roadway reduced to one lane on the Loop 375, both eastbound and westbound between Gateway Boulevard North and Tom Mays Park Access Road. And the off-ramp is closed on the Loop 375 southbound at Alameda Avenue. I'm Marie Jourdain with traffic.
This report is sponsored by Panera. Panera believes in saying yes to the good things. Yes to chicken sausage and pepperoni. Yes to flavorful tomato sauce and rich cheeses. And yes to putting it all on a crispy flatbread. The new sausage and pepperoni flatbread. Order on the app today. Panera. Live your yes. Restrictions apply.
Hey folks, this is Andrew J. Polk. As the days get shorter, you don't want to get caught in the spooky situation of not knowing where to go to get quality medical care and services when you need it. From the routine to minor medical emergencies, my go-to is Dr. Alan Carpenter and his team at Upper Valley Urgent Care Center. From shots and testing to aches, sprains, breaks, and the rest of the unplanned parts of your day, they're at the ready with walk-ins accepted 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week at 121 East Red Road. Celebrating their 15th anniversary this fall, Upper Valley Urgent Care Center.
I'm Baratunde Thurston, host of Force Multiplier, a new podcast about leveling up the impact we can have on the world through our relationships. Whether we're talking about health inequity, nutrition insecurity, or racism, I sit with leaders from across the public, private, and nonprofit worlds who are forging partnerships to take action on some of the toughest challenges facing us today. iHeartRadio is #1 for podcasts, and it's easy to see why. Find Force Multiplier on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Before buttons, things were much harder, like starting an outboard motor. Come on. Or even treating sleep apnea. If you've tried CPAP but struggle to get a good night's sleep, relief can be as easy as a button with Inspire.
Inspire is a sleep apnea treatment that works inside your body with just the click of a remote. No mask, no hose, just sleep. To learn more, visit inspiresleep.com. Inspire, sleep apnea innovation. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
During Lowe's Provember event, new members of their Pro Loyalty program get a welcome kit via mail, and every member gets a chance to win amazing prizes. Provember. Now through November 24th, Lowe's, the new home for pros.
Monterey Asset Management, superior multifamily property management services citywide.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Speaking about that weather as we have been and whatever may be going on with it in the near term, nice enough day today, but we'll get those couple of weeks of winter we get before too long. And just think about your comfort level and what you're expecting out of it. Is your current heater system going to be up to the task? If you have even any questions about if it is or isn't, you then want to call the air conditioning company to see what they can do for you. Particularly older systems, they're lacking both in efficiency and safety features, both of which can buy you, well, save you money and then buy you peace of mind, which is almost priceless on its own. So you can call them today, lock in some of the best prices of the year, and save as much as 25%, again, both in your pocketbook and in peace of mind, by calling 915-842-8615, 915-842-8615. Beat the rush and, again, save efficiency, particularly with those fuel prices, whatever they're going to be doing. If you have a forecast for that, you can make a lot, frankly. So just be prepared for all of it. Good night. Again, the Air Conditioning Company at 915-842-8615, or log on to airconditioningcompanyllc.com. That's airconditioningcompanyllc.com.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we've been talking about here today, including dipping into a bit of constituent responsibilities to elected officials here, but trying to get to a couple more calls on the line here. But don't forget about those pound 250 calls either, particularly since, well, it's a way you can leave us a message day or night. We have a couple of those coming in today as well. So we get to that and a whole lot more, and also upcoming subjects we're working on here, more about local businesses, particularly we're in that definitely that strong holiday shopping season already. The amount of demand out there. I don't know if you went to that Christmas fair amongst other things, but seriously, people are interested, and that's part of what's going on. May also talk a bit more about some of those infrastructure and demand expectations, how they're affecting us here, amongst other things. So a lot of stuff we're working on here for you. And again, those pound 250 calls, if you want to leave those, you can. Again, dial pound 250, say the keyword Talk El Paso when prompted, and leave us a message like this.
This is Basia Frankie. I want to make a comment relative to this thing that happened in Houston, this Astro World thing. I just want to share with you and everybody else out there. None of this stuff ever happened to Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, and the like. Or if you want to go back into the 18th, 19th century, or it either happened to Chopin or Brahms or Strauss or one of those other kind of people. Nobody's ever had that kind of thing, right? It's just this modern nut job kind of music is where this kind of stupid stuff happens. Basically, somewhere out there in the heavens is Charles Darwin has got a perplexed look on his face relative to this stupid nonsense these young people are doing today. My goodness, this is totally something that's going to win the Darwin Award of the century. I'll tell you that for sure.
I mean, of course, thoughts and prayers go out to those who died and were severely injured in that whole incident, but it does raise a lot of questions, such as we heard at the top of the hour, but the decision to let it continue for some reason is that's just a whole baffling thing, and criminal investigations and lawsuits already underway, so good luck to everyone involved in that. But again, this is not a reserved line, but it is kind of your spot in line if you want to leave your message. Again, pound 250, keyword Talk El Paso, to leave your own message.
This is Kathy from the West Side. My reply is to our friend in the Northeast. So far, as a result of the Durham investigation, there have been 2 arrests. One was a lawyer for the law firm representing the Clinton campaign, and the other was Dichenko, who was one of the people that lied to the FBI about the Russian dossier. It is important for people not to just listen to one side of the news. If you only listen to CNN, MSNBC, mainstream media, you will never hear about this. And you will continue falsely believing that there was Russian collusion. Please start listening to something else. Thank you.
I mean, you're not going to get any argument from me on doing a little bit more, broadening of horizon. Trusted sources are important, don't get me wrong, but if you're only listening to one source, there are certain impacts that can be well thought about. All right, trying to get to a couple more calls on the line here. We do have a Tom on the West Side right now. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Andrew, thank you, and really appreciate the show, this ability for us to be able to make comments, and I hope Tony's right. I hope a lot of our leaders, the mayor, city council, tune into your show so they can get the pulse of how us citizens feel out here in El Paso and what's going on. But what I wanted to talk about is Representative Escobar. I think she needs to explain to us what the president was talking about with regard to illegal aliens that may be suing, I guess, the U.S. government for up to $450,000 per child that was so-called separated a few years ago when there were people detained, I guess, and they couldn't determine whether certain children were with parents or who the parents were or any identification. So I just wanted to put that out there and see maybe you could invite Representative Escobar to come on and explain to us exactly how this is going to work and what we can do to make sure we're not taking on any more financial liability with regard to people that are not from our country coming into the country illegally and then using our resources, but also burdening the Border Patrol and immigration. So,
I mean, that's an important one. Also, what the perspective was on what's going on in Glasgow and any impacts on the visit there, particularly from our elected representative. And then also on that $450,000, if that has to happen due to legal challenges, settlements, etc., what the heck ever, how do they then turn around and not let that become a massive then sell line for the cartels, very eager to get more people in line to do that. So, I mean, a whole lot of issues come from it. But, we're going to have to leave it there for today because we are out of time here for this program. Do want to thank everyone who did call in, comment, participate in the show. We're able to get to all of them, but we'll do it again tomorrow, 4 to 5 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Again, y'all tuning in and certainly hope that the powers that be are paying a little bit more attention since, we're it when it comes to that live local talk radio thing, talking about the issues that matter to you and those daily political updates. So stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when on the road. Have a great evening, y'all. Time for a Medicare moment with Eric with Advocate Health Advisors. If I'm a veteran listening today and interested in knowing more, what would I do?
So if you are or know a veteran or family member looking to get answers concerning VA healthcare and Medicare, or just have Medicare questions in general, please feel free to contact me, Eric Lowenberg. I'm a licensed agent with Advocate Health Advisors, and thank you for your service.
So for more info, have that conversation, call Eric, your local advisor, wherever you're hearing this broadcast, at 1-800-876-0214. Again, 1-800-876-0214.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
There's some traffic to look out for on Zaragoza northbound between Alameda and George Dieter. Also, there's an accident that has the right lane closed on the 10 westbound at Paisano Drive. And there's construction that has the roadway reduced to one lane on Mesa Street northbound between Festival and Shadow Mountain Drive. I'm Marae Jourdain, and that's traffic.
Hi, this is Rick from the Air Conditioning Company. How would you like to save $15,000 or more on your refrigerated air system? The Air Conditioning Company can help you do that. An improperly installed unit can cost you thousands and shorten the life of your equipment. Act now and get the best prices of the year on your AC and furnaces. Let our expert tech put money back in your pocket. Call 842-8615 today or log on to the Air Conditioning Company, LLC.com. The Air Conditioning
Traffic
Company.
and
Love
weather
our
all
company.
day. News
License
Radio
number
690
26622.
is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.